Welcome to Industrial Marketing Live. My name is Erin Birch, a senior strategist here at the industrial marketing agency Gorilla 76 and one of your IML hosts. Today, we're joined by a special guest, Sami Birch, to talk about career growth for marketers. Sami has had a few different roles within industrial marketing and outside of it, from designer to CRM admin to project manager. Now, Sami is the director of marketing and communications for mission design and automation. So, Sami, would you like to say hi and introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm Sami Birch. I am a mom to a 4-year-old. I'm head up the marketing team here at Mission. So we're an industrial automation custom machine builder, kind of running the gamut from small test stations to large systems that are integrated with a lot of robotics, doing all types of things the size of a room. I've been in automation for about 11 years now. And yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about all the different kind of areas that I've been able to plug in the marketing and communications realm of industrial automation.
Yeah. So this episode's kind of unique. Usually we're talking about, a specific marketing topic, how to get better at, Google Analytics or running webinars or something like that. But today we're really focused on you and your career growth, you being, the collective group here today. And we wanted to invite Sami because you've had like a really cool career in industrial marketing and just a really great, I feel like, mindset as you've approached like learning and growth throughout your career. So do you want to give like a brief history of some of the different roles you've had, a little background for everyone?
Sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to. So I guess I'll start by saying I didn't really grow up around manufacturing or in the industry. My mom worked in advertising, and I went to school thinking I would be a writer. Like I was going to move to New York and write for the New Yorker, which I think is what a lot of people who go to school for writing kind of start out thinking. But I had a focus in business. I always kind of had like a business mind. Like, I don't know, I started programs in my high school that were like little e-commerce, or not e-commerce, but like through my econ class, like little businesses. And so kind of always had a mind for business, but I really enjoyed and found that I was quite skilled in writing. And so that's the journey I pursued in school. Um, and when I got out of school, my first job was at a company called JR Automation. They're a similar company to Mission and a industrial automation provider. I was hired there as a technical writer, and a technical writer at that company writes instructions. And so the purpose is just to like understand the machine and write detailed instructions for an operator to use the machine. For me, that was incredibly intimidating because I hadn't even seen a robot until I went for my interview. Like I'd never seen one before. I think there may have been one in like, I don't know, the CAD wing of my high school, but I wasn't hanging out there at that time. So uh, it was really like kind of scary at first, but I was among a lot of creative thinkers who were kind of in the same boat as me. Once I got to know them, they're like, yeah, we went to school for writing and we're here, and we didn't know what we were doing at first either. So you're going to learn it. We're confident you can do this. And it turned out to be such a great step. I mean, it like built my entire career, and everything kind of. So I did that for a while. There was not a marketing team at that company at the time. And so two of us that kind of were in the documentation team that always sort of took the marketing style roles, build a presentation for this, or we got a trade show coming up, so we need brochures. We were kind of like, oh, I'll take that. I'd love to do that. Or I was kind of like, why aren't we on social media? Can we make a Facebook or a LinkedIn for this company? Um, and so we kind of took those tasks. So naturally, once we were large enough and had some incentive behind our business to have a marketing team, we were able to be the marketing team officially. And then our company also had kind of goals for more growth, and we sold and needed a CRM. And at that time, I was curious about how that worked, and they needed somebody to be the manager of it as we were acquiring new businesses globally. And so then I became the CRM admin and learned everything I possibly could about Salesforce, which is a little different from a typical marketing kind of role, but it was really informative. It's invaluable information for how I do my job here. And yeah, where am I at? Then I became the manager of that. So all CRM projects, which we were a global company. So integrating businesses in the US, Singapore, Romania, and France. That was a pretty huge undertaking and kind of crazy that I did that in my career. It still feels like. And after we sold our business to a company called Hitachi, then COVID happened. I had a baby and COVID happened, and I was feeling a little burnt out, to be honest. And somebody that I had worked with in the past offered me a position here at Mission. And yeah, it seemed kind of crazy at the time because I had built this entire career and all these steps at this great company to work for. But I think my life, where I was at in my life, really needed to kind of what I felt was step back for a little bit, slow down maybe from the speed I was running at. And yeah, now I'm at Mission, and it's been for a little over 4 years here, and it's been great. We've grown our business, and yeah, it's been quite the journey. How's
Oh
that?
yeah. No, yeah. Thank you for that background. We got lots of comments in the chat. I threw out a question like, did anybody really think they'd end up in industrial marketing? Like I asked people what their background is, and very similar. I think a lot of people like yourself, maybe studied like writing or some other, business topic. They thought they'd be like, I remember when I was in business school, I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be doing all these really cool like B2C like I don't know, like the big Super Bowl ads. That's what you kind of study in school.
Yeah.
But industrial is just this whole other world. How did you kind of adjust to this space early in your career when you found yourself here? You saw a robot for the first time.
Yeah. Honestly, it was really intimidating at first, but what I learned in school is if you don't know something, Google it. And so I was doing so much Googling and just extra reading and trying to make friends. I'm kind of a pretty social person. And so trying to build a community around me at work with some of the team members. And I was fortunate, like I got put on a huge project with a lot of engineers my own age. And we kind of had like just a little crew that were, made up of some builders, some controls engineers, myself, and a couple other team members that I just kind of asked a million questions to, and they were patient with me and always willing to help and answer and explain something. In fact, coincidentally, one of the main engineers on my first huge project. It was a project for Tesla, and it was like the size of a room. It was extremely intimidating. I'm thinking, how do they trust me to do this? Like, this is huge. How do they even trust that I can do this? And I think everybody kind of feels that way. Um, and I learned from my who happened to be my neighbor, this engineer. The main engineer was my neighbor. And so we would started carpooling to work because we worked like 40 minutes away. And all the way I would just like, can you explain like what this thing in controls means, or how do you like program the robot to do this? And these are things that everybody kind of knows on the team, but I feel like I didn't grow up going to engineering school, or around engineers. And so just building kind of a community and spending a little extra time doing homework to learn, like I'm going to figure this out if I want to get good at
Yeah,
it.
I think the sentiment you're touching on is a little bit of like imposter syndrome. Like when you said that they trust me to do this. Like I think we've all felt that at some point. What tips do you have for fighting that feeling, especially as an industrial marketer?
This is like the golden question, I feel like, because it's something that I've been doing this now for 11 years and I still feel imposter syndrome. I think we all kind of happen to it from time to time. Um, but for me, talking to the people that I'm working with and like kind of saying like, what do you like about the work I'm doing? What don't you like? Kind of getting some reassurance from the community around you. And if you've got good leadership, which I've been so fortunate to have, um, people will support you. And it's sort of like, well, we do trust you. You're the person who can do it. So you've got like go do it. And you're not gonna get in too much trouble if something goes sideways. We're gonna have your back. And that's something that I've always like really appreciated about the team here is like we got each other's back and nobody's in this game alone. And so yeah, I think that's part of it. I don't have a great like here's the key to fighting imposter syndrome because I'm still doing it daily. Like I still feel like sometimes how do you trust me to represent this entire company or how do you and then I'm like wait a second. Aaron, this is something we talked about briefly before we kind of got started recording, but it's like there was a time where you didn't know what a robot was and you didn't know how to write a manual about a robot. And now you could kind of do that in a day without much research. You know it and you got it. And that's kind of how these steps go is just get in there and do your best and keep asking questions and keep getting better. And that's the only way to do it. And everyone you know is probably on a really similar journey.
Oh yeah. Yeah, what we were talking about was gosh, I already forgot the name of it. Was it the
Oh, the
Dunn
Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes,
Yeah,
this kind of journey of learning something new and getting better at something. I think as industrial marketers, we're constantly doing that, and you forget all the times you've successfully learned something and accomplished something. So I think just reflecting, like writing things down, taking screenshots of when you get like a encouraging message from a coworker, so you can like look back and remember like, oh yeah, there was a time when I didn't even know like how to run Google ads and now I get conversions from there. Like you're always trying to get better at it, but you forget how far you've come. And I think that reflection every once in a while is so important.
for sure. I'm so glad you said that too, because it is just something even now I'm doing like, oh wait, you've done this before. You've been on this type of journey. And I think also talking to people. So um for me, I feel like I kind of lean towards like the artsy side of things. And for a while I didn't know like, do I even fit into manufacturing? Like, does that make sense? And I've had some great mentors and leaders that are in the industry that are like, no, that's your gift to the industry is that you can think that way and you think differently than most of us here. So we need you to be helping us that way. And then another thing that has helped me a lot is reaching out using LinkedIn, building a community of people like Joe and John and Peyton, that I've met through LinkedIn and then got to work with. And then also like Emily Wilkins, who's an industrial marketer, Megan Jemba, um, Eddie Saunders, Nikki Gonzalez. All of those people are now people that I would consider my friends who have walked a similar journey. I only know this because kind of saying like, hey guys, like I'm in marketing too for industrial space. Like, can we be friends? And then like getting to know people um and then getting to hear and share stories, you realize like, oh, I'm not alone in this. And I think if you can get that help, be that help to younger people too who are in the industry or people that are just starting out, like just create a community of support.
Yeah, exactly. And what I love about this community too is it's broad, it's growing, but it's also like specific and niche enough where like I feel like most people want to be friends and help each other. Like this room today is evidence of that. Which I love. And just yeah, just sending a message, asking for help. Like people want to learn from each other, people want to help each other. Uh you mentioned kind of finding a mentor, kind of building a community. LinkedIn is one great way to do it. Are there other places that you found good mentors?
Yeah, so I've been lucky to participate in a lot of local stuff. So we have a great chamber of commerce here in West Michigan called the West Coast Chamber. And last year I participated in a leadership program. So it was like a 9-month program where every month you learned about different aspects of the community. So the first month was like health and human services. The second one was like manufacturing and innovation. And we were with the same cohort. Like we did a retreat where we got to know each other. And then every month we learned about a different kind of area of business or an area in our community. This team now like are kind of my go-to people who I can lean on for help, and they do the same. So some of the other team members that are like marketing focused in that group, well, just last week we had a call because they're working on a marketing campaign and they are kind of stuck on something and just need an outside perspective from somebody who's not touching that project at all or knows really nothing about it. Like, how would you approach this? And jumping on a call for 30 minutes to just say like, hey, have you thought about using, social media ads? I think that would be a quick way for you to reach more people, and just tossing ideas back and forth with this community that now are like trusted advisors in my social circle who I never would have met had I not kind of just got plugged in a community event and then learned a little bit more. Just last night, one of the cohorts that I had brought us dinner because my husband broke his ankle. So we're kind of all in a cluster right now, but just building this community of people around you, and working with kind of others that are also trying to grow and learn and have different sets of eyes on stuff that can help you in different ways because their journey is different. Um, but you've got to be willing to put yourself out there, I think, and especially when you're talking. So that's kind of building a community. If you're looking for a mentor, I think it's helpful to know what you want from a mentor. And so just asking someone willy-nilly, like, will you be my mentor? It's sort of like, what do you need help with? And how am I the person to help you? So I think if you do a little homework ahead of time, maybe there's someone whose energy you drive with really well, and you think, man, I really want to learn from this person. Just kind of reaching out and building a relationship without being too like, help me pull my career, but say like why you want them to help you, what's inspired you about them. And then I think more times than not, people are more than happy to help.
Yeah, agreed. And I also think like what what you want to learn from that person, but also like what you expect the relationship to look like what you're kind of expecting in terms of their time. Like, do you want to be able to occasionally ask them questions? Do you want to have like a standing monthly coffee date or something like that?
For
Seeing kind
sure.
of what people are open to, I think helps, because it's easy for those things to wither too, like especially if it's not somebody that works at the same company as you and you see them every single day.
For sure. Yeah, there's different avenues too. Like it can be just sort of casual and like, hey, how are things going? Just checking in sort of thing. Or it could be like very goal oriented. Like um something that I'll probably do in the future and that my husband does right now is just has a professional coach. Like and that he meets with once a month, and they spend an hour or two together and they kind of have progress steps. Here's what I'm struggling with right now. Here's how maybe you can help me work on it. And so those are some ways too that I think can help and just give you a little more confidence to have like tools behind you if you're struggling with not knowing where to move next in your career.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so mentorships, building a community are really great ways to kind of like learn and grow. What other kinds of personal or professional development have been most impactful for your career?
Some things that I've done are very practical, like just take classes. So like when I had to learn CRM, it wasn't that I already knew anything about it. It was just that I kind of had an analytical mind and they needed a person who could kind of work well with the sales and apps teams and the user side to understand what we needed, and then kind of translate that with the IT team to make sure we were meeting requirements. But I didn't know anything about Salesforce starting out. And so I started like, I took a class, like a 5-day deep dive class to get my head around what it really was. And there's Trailhead. So if you're familiar with Salesforce, you know about Trailhead, and just taking a bunch of classes on there to understand. Also like exploring what conferences exist to help support what you're trying to learn. So, agreed to the note that just popped up to say IMS. That was something that was really valuable this year. A few years ago, when I was still learning like Adobe Suite and was doing more of like creative design development for brochures and things like that, I was still really young in my career and I really wanted to go to Adobe Max. And um, it seemed like the coolest conference where you could learn all about the Adobe Suite. And I wanted to go. It certainly wasn't something I could pay for myself, but I kind of like trickled the idea to my boss and she was like, well, that sounds like she's like, I'm open to it. Can you put together like a case for it? And so got to work putting together a business case, or like just even it was like a 1-page proposal. It wasn't even that extravagant about why I could like benefit by going to Adobe Max and what I would learn there and what I could expect to bring back. And they're like, this is great. Actually, we're going to send 3 of you. I think these 3 people who are kind of heading up these different initiatives would find value in that. And so I was so afraid to ask and so afraid they'd say no or think I was weird for asking or like greedy or something, which sounds crazy now that I think about it. But at the time I felt so like, oh, is it like okay to ask for things? And the answer is absolutely yes. Your boss probably wants you to ask for things. They're busy doing whatever they need to accomplish. And so if you're showing initiative that you want to get better, I think that can really help. So, sorry, to summarize, take some classes, find some stuff that like conferences or seminars, maybe local groups that you can get involved with to, um, yeah, build a learning environment around what you're trying to do and try stuff out. Like, not everything that I've tried has been where I ended up going or wanting to even learn, but you don't know that until you explore it a little bit. So, just be open and willing to learn more things, I guess. A
Yeah,
lifelong learner. That's me.
of course. And that's like, I don't know, I think that's one of the most important traits to have in industrial marketing. It's going to change a lot. There's so much you can learn. There's so many different areas where you can kind of specialize. Like, you've dove into the CRMs, you've dove into the creative design side. You've had a handful of different roles, some within the same company, some, switching to a different company. How have you known in your career when it was time to kind of take the plunge and be like, yeah, I'm going to like own the CRM. I want to do this. How have you kind of made those decisions?
Man, that's such a big question. It's tough to know. I think it can be hard to know when it's time to change what you're doing. Um, there's a few different things. I think if you're invigorated by the work that you're doing, you're really good at it, and maybe you're at like an entry or mid-level and you want to get better, then you can deep dive. For me, I always kind of knew in the beginning that I didn't want to be a tech writer forever. And so um, I always wanted to do the more creative work. And so that for me was like, as soon as I just had my eyes like peeled for an opportunity, like what can I do with these skills that I've learned here to apply them to the next level? Making career changes from like company to company, that's also challenging, especially if you've had a really good experience at the company that you're working for and feel loyalty to the company that you're working for. It can be, I mean, I cried telling my boss I was leaving, but it still felt like the right thing to do, right? But that just goes to show like you've built such a good community around you, or like it is hard to say goodbye to things that aren't bad, but there's something else out there for you that you you feel is the right step. And so I think it's complicated, Aaron, to know when is the right time to move. If you're unhappy in your job, then yes, there's other jobs and you should explore that. If you're happy in your job but you think you want to learn more, I think you I don't know, I don't want to say you just know, but it is one of those things where it's like something's pulling you in a direction. And you'd sell yourself short if you don't at least try and go after something new because you're scared. Like, don't let fear hold you back. What if I fail? What if everybody hates me? Like, there's so many what ifs, but it's like, that's kind of your imposter syndrome again coming out. And there's just so much more opportunity if you just get past the door that you can't see on the other side.
Yeah. And I think like if you set an intention like you knew at the beginning of your career you didn't want to be a technical writer forever. You have your eyes peeled and you are willing to say like, put me in coach, seize those opportunities. It was kind of the same thing when you were talking about like advocating to go to certain conferences or take certain classes that maybe cost money. Like the worst they can say is no. And even if they do say no, I think it bodes well for you. It shows that you want to take initiative, you want to learn. If it's not in the budget, it's not in the budget, but it never hurts to ask or like advocate for yourself in those scenarios.
Totally agree. I think now, as a person who leads other people, I love when people ask me things, even if I have to say, like, not right now. Like, not right now is the time, but like, I'm so glad you asked. And I'm so glad I know that you want to do that because that helps
Mhm.
me understand what direction we should focus on for you for the next year or the next 6 months. And, maybe in 6 months, it makes more sense for us to send you to this thing or explore this other area. Like at Mission, we do cross training. So like one of our writers right now is transitioning over the summer to controls engineering, and she's going to learn controls engineering. And so that's kind of not a typical path, but we encourage cross training here. So if there's something you want to learn, we'd rather have you learn it here and explore it. And maybe it's a great fit and maybe it's not, but at least we know that. And so that's a way that, I think she asked maybe like 6 months ago, and we're making the transition this summer. So it's like, I can't do that for you right now because it just doesn't make sense for what we've got going on. But why don't we look at the summer and start making a transition plan to get you there? And I will like reiterate a million times, I've been so lucky to work for great leaders who are really open to that style of work and learning and growth and just getting better in general. Being encouraging to learning and um, advancing in weird and sometimes unusual ways.
Yeah. You never know where it's going to lead you, right? That's
That's right.
really cool that you do that. Well, I wanted to circle back to the topic of imposter syndrome because we've been getting a lot of like great advice in the chat. Luke, you had a great message, kind of like piece of advice that was an aha moment for you recently. Did you want to come on and share that?
Sure, here I am. No, I've everything we do in sales and marketing, it has a scorecard. You track number of leads, you track whatever you tally in your day to day to show that what you're doing is working is something that a lot of us in this call do. And it was really kind of my aha moment. A mentor of mine, another circle back, my mentor actually sold typewriters as his first job, so he's a pretty cool mentor. But he said ask yourself, because I get imposter syndrome a lot too. But he asked me to ask myself, where is the evidence? Where is the evidence that what you're doing is not worthwhile or not good enough or whatnot? Because if you don't have if the people within your organization or your peers are not saying something, that you don't belong or that you have no clear evidence of the behavior or activity connecting you to being an imposter, perhaps it's all in your own head. And if no one's providing this feedback, then perhaps then you're better than you think. And so his mantra was just continue to say, I belong. And I guess if you do have that evidence, you should be worried. But if you don't, you can stop worrying and just kind of keep doing what you're doing and have your own personal scorecard of success.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if you do find evidence like, oh yeah, maybe I'm not as great as I think I am. That's fine. You can learn, you can get better, can help you
Yeah.
identify like gaps too. So
And
that's, yeah.
and not to be too long-winded, but he posted, I pulled it up while we were sitting here. He posted something on LinkedIn the other day that it had to do with giving presentations, which we all do as well. We all present our marketing campaign or what we're doing, whether we're presenting to an audience or internally. But it was his pros for the pros of the day was, when presenting to any type of audience, keep these three principles in mind. My audience is more forgiving than I am. My audience does not demand perfection. My audience demands effectiveness, and give myself permission to be less than perfect, never less than professional. So you don't have to aim. I think a lot of imposter syndrome is aiming for perfection and making sure everything we're doing is perfect. And if we can back away from that, it helps out. You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to read off some of the other things people said because there are just so many like good nuggets that I wanted to get into the recording. But like Joel said, it doesn't always help, but try to remember that most people feel this. You're not alone in this feeling. Rachel said, remembering that something that everyone else in the room doesn't. They are there in that meeting to learn something from you. You have expertise. Jacob put in a really great quote: "You can never cross an ocean if you don't have the courage to lose sight of the shore." Jared said, I try to keep reminding myself I wouldn't be given these opportunities if people didn't see the value in what I do. Rachel also added, like, it's okay not to have an answer for everything that your boss, team, coworkers ask you. You don't have to be the expert on every marketing discipline. That's not realistic. But what is important is you're willing to learn. You want to identify those gaps. You're getting better every day, even if you feel like an imposter. Like, chances are you probably are not. So I just thought, a little burst of inspiration from the chat I wanted to inject in here. But thank you everyone for sharing those.
Yeah, I'm reading through them now. I had it closed because I didn't want to get distracted, but I love it. That's so helpful. Luke, thank you for sharing. Like, I needed to hear that today. Something that I've been saying too is like, which we've all heard, is like, do not let progress or perfection stand in the way of progress, which can be very hard, at least for me. I don't know. I'm like, go back and forth on whether or not I should pitch an idea or do something because I don't have it all the way fully baked yet, or I don't know. And it's like, no, just get started. And you've got a team around you to help.
Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, I guess maybe a little bit of a broad question. What advice do you have for the people in this room that might be trying to, shift into learning a new skill or making a career change or just leveling up at what they're doing right now?
Yeah, I think the answer, or some advice that I have is just don't be afraid. And I love what Luke said, like, what facts do you have to prove that you can't do this? Like 9 times out of 10, you probably can. And it's this voice in your head that's telling you can't for some reason. But like, be your own friend and be your own advocate. Like, you can do it, even if it's scary, um, even if it feels new, like it's supposed to. And we all were new at stuff once, right? And so I think sometimes where we're at now is like feeling this expectation that you have to already be great at something in order to put yourself into it. And I don't think that's the truth. I think there's so much room for growth, and your leaders are going to know that, or be open to kind of discussing that if you're going to a new company, like, hey, here's where I'm at with this, and I'm really excited to learn X, Y, and Z, which I know will get me to where you're looking for. And are you willing to help me learn that? So I think just not being afraid to take leaps, and don't let fear hold you back, I guess, is a better way of saying that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just say this, like, Industrial Marketing Live, like this community, the Industrial Marketing Collective is a safe place to take those leaps and learn from people. So take advantage of the people in this room, and, you know, learn from each other. I think, yeah, just a very hopeful note to end on today.
Yeah, I'll also just shout out like the Slack and yeah, just listening into stuff to other people talking. So like I know a while ago Peyton invited me to the Slack, and it's so encouraging to like have just advocates all around and other people talking. And now it's the collective, which is there too. And um then you get to go to Industrial Marketing Summit and meet everybody that you see online. It's just really helpful, I guess, to have this community here. And yeah, just echoing what you're saying, Erin.
Oh yeah, you're like teeing me up perfectly for the closing notes I have for like reminders and invitations. So I think I will just hop right into that. So we mentioned the Industrial Marketing Collective a couple of times. That is kind of the like name and space we've given to this community. It's on a platform called circle.so. It's just a learning community. We have like discussions. There are like paid versions that include like a course that we've put together on industrial marketing, and office hours where you can come in and ask questions live with our team. So lots of cool stuff to check out in there. That is industrialmarketingcollective.com if you want to join, or you can just message anybody at Gorilla and we can help you get in there. Another thing that was mentioned was the Industrial Marketing Summit 2025. Early bird registration is open for that. It's going to be back in Austin, Texas this year, and it'll be in February, the 26th through the 28th. So that is industrialmarketingsummit.com, or again, if you message anyone, we can help you find it if you're interested in that. And note on future IML episodes, our next IML episode would fall on July 4th. So we will not be having a live episode that day, but we will still be releasing an episode on the Manufacturing Marketer podcast. It's about AI design tools with our digital creative director, Randall Zaitz. So, you know, if you're by the lake and you want to still be learning about digital marketing, there will be a new podcast episode. But the next time we'll be live together will be July 18th, and we will have Mary Keogh in the house to talk about building killer product pages. So really excited for that one next time in July. But thank you so much, Sami, for joining us today. It was awesome to have you here, and like I just feel so hopeful and invigorated now, and I really appreciate your time and your wisdom.
Thanks. It's an honor to be here. So thank you.
We'll see you guys.